Team just got through with I don't know, maybe a 5-6 mile hike. First one up here in Georgia. I wanted to take a few moments chit chat with you about some lessons learned of things to do before you get out, while you're getting out, and after you get out. So if you have your own lessons learned, make sure you leave them down in the comments below. So a total of dang near 22 years and lots of lessons learned, right? One, you kind of have to understand that the military is its own complex, right? Own complex systems, way of doing things and handling business and awarding and correcting or rebuking. And most of the time, neither one of those things are personal. Sure, you'll find cliques out there, but in general, it's just the system that is requiring things of seniors. Once you kind of understand that it's not all personal, you can kind of set yourself up on a different route than maybe when most of us were when we first had our initial entry, right? Does that make sense? Along the way, back in the 90s, going to medical and going to sick call, seeing the doc, the corpsman, whatever, it wasn't necessarily frowned down on. Like, nobody would be open, at least my experience, as I recall, nobody was openly calling anybody a pussy or whatever for going. But with the mentality that existed, especially throughout the military in the 90s, there was a reluctance to seek health care. Now that reluctance stems back decades, and that's why you can find Vietnam vets who have zero VA disability, combat vets, right? And that's why you find folks like my dad. I think he's sitting at 20%, man. And he got shot, exposed to all kinds of nasty chemicals and everything else. So he's continuing to work on that now. And that's why you've seen for maybe the last 10, maybe 15 years, a push by seniors to promote health and wellness, at least in the Army, right? Man, I think it's true for the other branches as well. You see folks not telling somebody that they shouldn't go, but that if you are injured, that you should go. Get healed and get back in the fight. And that's ultimately what it should all be about. If you're thinking I'm going to go to medical in order to get an increase in my VA claim, like, what you need to do is drop down, do like 200 freaking push-ups, then do another 200 burpees, go smoke crack and get kicked out. Because that kind of mentality is not in alignment with any value that the military prides itself on. That said, you want to go to get taken care of and get healed, but now you have a timestamp so that whether it's in 2 years or 20 years or 60 years, if that injury comes back to haunt you again, you can say this was service connected, right? Does that make sense? And it could be worth $0, right? Like a lot of my claims, worth absolutely nothing. But at least you have it connected. Whether that's for your own peace of mind, or should it become even more exasperated, maybe there is something that we the people owe you for your service and dedication to the country and how you got injured along the way. So definitely make sure that if you are injured that you go see somebody. It doesn't mean that you have to get on profile or don't, but I will tell you, if something is hurting you and then it hurts to do something that the military requires, you need to go ahead and allow that provider to write you that temporary profile. Maybe it's just a week, right? Maybe that's all you need and get back in the fight. Maybe it's 2 weeks and get back in the fight. But if you can't perform to standard, it's okay, to be on a temporary. As seniors, we looked out for folks that were on temporaries for long periods of time. And as being a flag, if you will, either not necessarily on the soldier and their behavior or values, but on their health and fitness, if that makes sense. I'm sure there's some dudes out there that don't see the same things the way I do, but they're dirtbags and I'm not. Definitely, TAP and whatever it is, the program that you're going through is great, I guess, for somebody who's 23 to 25 years old. In other words, had no real civilian life experience as an adult. If you've had some experience, probably the biggest takeaway from there would be for that VA portion, to get to know some of those resources. But if you are in an opportunity to take advantage of an internship or a skill bridge program, and it's geared towards something that you really want to do, definitely take advantage of that. Take advantage of getting into schools while you can, not necessarily for points or anything, but for the experience, because you're never going to get that kind of training anywhere else out in the civilian world. Certifications are out there, so take advantage of those. Take advantage of your clearances. If you can put yourself in a position to volunteer to go do something that's going to land you a TS, that has a lot of value on the civilian world, depending on the job that you're looking for. And maybe you're an IT guy. If you have a TS, but you don't have a CompTIA certificate, a lot of companies will pay for you to go to the training and get your certificate if you have your TS. So that's not necessarily a discriminator. You definitely want to, when it comes to filing for your VA, you can basically land an intent to file, and you get 365 days. Certainly, the sooner that you do it and get it over with or get the process going, the more benefit there will be for you, whether it's for your own health and well-being and having another primary provider that you can go see, or it's education benefits for you as well as for your family, depending on what your percentage is. So you want to keep making sure that you do these things ultimately, and it's not to be selfish, but at the end of the day, the military goes rolling along, and once you're out the door, it doesn't matter how great you are, that void is going to be filled really quick, and you're going to miss some folks, and some folks are going to miss you, but the train's not going to stop rolling because you're not there, and that's why you need to take care of you. So you kind of have to do both things, right? It's this pendulum of taking care of your JOB and taking care of you and your family, right? One is not necessarily greater than the other, but you want to make sure that they're somewhat aligned as far as your lines of effort. Some days it may be this way, some days it may be that way. After you get out, and while you're preparing to get out, you got to have a job before you quit your job. It's saying I learned a long time ago. So do everything that you can. It's tougher to do if you're moving away from the post or the base where you're at, because while you're there and you're on terminal leave and maybe you have your own housing, it's easy to go and apply and land for some jobs that are local. But if you're moving out, maybe you want to move back home or to your home area or to a different part of the country, it can be a little bit more of a challenge. Yes, there's USA jobs. Government jobs typically take 3 to 7 months to work through the process if you're qualified. There's all kinds of job boards out there like Indeed and plenty others. But it's not the easiest thing to do unless you can go look at somebody in the eye. Then it makes things a little bit different. So you may need to, my opinion, save up some leave so that you can burn it on terminal and or your transition leave. I guess terminal is too woke of a word anymore. It's too angry of a word, if you will. My fault, you're bad. Get into an area, that way you continue to have a paycheck coming in while you are doing these things. And what you want to do if you're retiring or if you're pending a VA claim to come in, those things can take 30 to 60 days, assuming that you have all your T's dotted and your I's crossed, right? So you got to plan for that. And then you got to start building your network up again. You know, you get out and maybe you're in someplace new. Maybe you're home and things have changed. Maybe you're in a town over and you don't quite know everybody just yet, or maybe you did land an awesome job and it moved you to a new part of the country. It's just like another PCS. That's all getting out is. It's like another PCS. It's the new, it's the unknown, it's the same old thing. And even if you get a job doing basically the same thing that you're doing in the military, it's going to be different, just like every job is in the military, even with your same MOS. So regardless of where you're at on this path, man, I hope and wish nothing but the best of you. And I know that man, there's been a ton of news I would have loved to have talked about. Just kind of been on the road, coming out here to Georgia. And once I get kind of settled down, we'll get this channel reinvigorated. But I want to make sure that I'm set up and prepared to be able to do and handle that. So in the meantime, videos will probably be once every week, once every other week to once every 3 weeks or something like that. So I appreciate you guys, man. You stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.